What do you say, everybody? Welcome to Monday Night Quarterback. We get together with you every Monday, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern time to break down Alabama's last game. And we do it right here on the BamaInsider YouTube channel, and we invite you to be part of the channel. Closing in on 80,000 subscribers, on a quest to get 100,000, as many as there are seats and fans at Bryant-Denny Stadium on an Alabama game day Saturday. Hey, subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. We want you to do that. Also, give us a thumbs up. Hit the bell. The thumbs up's a way of saying Roll Tide. The bell is just so that you know every time we go live. And thank you so much for being here. Our show's presented by Westgate Luxury Condominiums right there next to Bryant-Denny Stadium. It's awesome. We were there on Saturday. Clint and I are my first guest. It's coming up here in a second. We did the post-game show from up there. We had a blast. Jay Barker swung by. He hung out with us for a little bit off the air. We enjoy it every time we're there, and we know you will as well. The Skygate Club on the roof is awesome. You got the great parking right next to the football stadium, the oversized balconies, units that go 1 to 5 bedroom. Whether you're looking to invest, westgateal.com, or you're looking to rent, some people rent these units out throughout the year, and we want you guys to enjoy your stay when you come to Tuscaloosa. The best way to do it is westgateal.com. I see everyone in the comments section. Roll Tide to you guys. Mike, I see you in there. Roll Tide. Steven, thank you for the super chat. Before we even get going, Rodney and everyone else, Ty and Mark and all you guys, Roll Tide. Let me bring them on without further ado. Mr. Clint Lamb from On 3. How you doing, my friend?
I was really hoping you were going to have a surprise guest, from Peanut. I really thought he was going to come in and join us, maybe get some good conversation going like we did on Saturday night, man. I'm bummed, Mick, is what I am. I'm bummed.
Peanut owes us a super chat. He's this Tennessee troll, which, that's kind of throwing a broad brush on Tennessee. They win for the first time in 16 years, but they have never failed to win in the talking department, and they have been talking smack. So we did get pranked on Saturday.
It was phenomenal.
And then the guy followed me on Twitter, so I don't even know what that means.
Didn't follow.
You didn't get a follow?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. I didn't go check specifically, but I'm a little offended because I probably would have. Did you follow him back? That's the big question.
No. I mean, maybe I will. I don't know. I just saw it on there. It made me laugh, and I thought
the way he set it up, man, I fully believe.
It was good work by him.
Yeah, it was a good setup. I'll give him credit. So
he started talking about Bill O'Brien, which, all of us are kind of talking about Bill O'Brien. Maybe we'll get into that as well. Comment section, you guys can. All right, let me ask you right off the bat. How awesome was Eli Ricks, man? Finally, this guy gets into a game, and he was just balling out, huh?
So good that everybody's now not happy about the performance. They're upset with it because he hadn't been playing longer. That's when you've done some really good things, when people are like, I don't care what he did on Saturday. I'm pissed off that he hadn't been playing all year. He was phenomenal. I mean, he was targeted, 9 or 10 times. He only gave up 1 catch. Granted, it was a 19-yard gain, but fantastic player, and everything that a lot of fans and I'm sure the coaching staff and really everybody thought he was going to be when he first committed to come to Alabama from LSU. Freshman All-American, had struggled with injuries throughout the offseason and then into fall camp, and that of course slowed down his progress. But when he finally got on the field, he was doing things the right way in practice. Nick Saban talked about that in the post-game press conference, talked about him doing things and looking a lot better in practice. That helped to get him on the field. And he ended up being that 6'2", 190-pound, just long, very physical corner that we had seen at LSU. Ball skills for days. I think 4 pass breakups on 9 targets, which is a pretty good, pass breakup per target, rate. But the guy's got fluid hips. He's got everything that you could possibly want in a cornerback. He's got the ball skills. He's got the length. He plays physical. He's got fluid hips. So I think that, moving forward, you're probably going to see a lot more of him. And I would be shocked if he didn't start against his former team here in a couple of weeks. But at the same time, I thought Kool-Aid played pretty well. I don't think he played quite as well as Eli Ricks did, but he continued to be a guy that when, over the last several games, he was the one that teams were kind of shying away from a little bit. They were kind of picking on Terry and Arnold, or trying to. And so that had people wondering, just how much has this guy improved? They kind of went away from Ricks on Saturday. Mississippi State did. They went after Kool-Aid, and I think they kind of paid for it because, Kool-Aid's a very good player. He almost had an interception. So I think Alabama's got two very physical, long, talented cornerbacks that they can kind of build around in their secondary.
Hey, guys, man, thank you for cranking up the super chat. We love it, man. Stephen Weeks, man, Roll Tide, thank you for the $5. Really appreciate it. That'll help out with Clint and I's tab next time we hang. And Amp B, I'm sure excited to see Eli Ricks play, and I'm just as excited to see the $2 super chat. So, man, Roll Tide to all you guys for hitting us up today as we talk about this Alabama football team after a really impressive performance. Well, we talked defense. Let's stay on defense, Clint. What'd you think about Dallas Turner, new role on defense, his performance? Where'd that stick in your mind?
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. They come out the gate with, kind of a 3-2-6 dime rabbits package, which we had heard a little bit about during the offseason. We finally got to see it in action, in a live game situation. And I thought it did, pretty well. I thought he did pretty well. He's lined up, not in his typical outside linebacker, stand-up defensive end, edge type of role that we had seen, through the first, 7 games of the season. He was lined up next to Henry To'o as an inside linebacker. They sent him a lot on blitzes in that situation, but they also allowed him to kind of stay back and play the run as you normally would as a linebacker. I thought, he looked pretty comfortable doing that, surprisingly. He's 6'4", he's 245 pounds. He's a really big guy, but I thought he held up extremely well in the middle there for Alabama. And I love the versatility that it provides Alabama's defense because, as the game kind of continued to carry on, they were lining him up as an edge player and then backing him off to an off-ball linebacker role and presenting 3-man fronts. They were, going from having showing a 3-man front before the snap to right there before the ball was actually snapped to putting him up there, making it a 4-man front. So just the versatility that he was providing Alabama's front seven, I thought was very big. And I don't know if that was specifically for Mississippi State because they didn't feel very threatened by that run game, even though Mississippi State tried to run them out of that 3-2-6. Alabama didn't budge at all. They continued to utilize it. They were willing to give up the yards on the ground, bend but don't break mentality, and it ended up working out extremely well. They only allowed 6 points. So obviously they were doing something right. But that could have just been because Deontay Lawson was out. You had some defensive linemen who were forced to miss the game. So I don't know if this was just Mississippi State specific or if it's something that we could see moving forward, but it certainly was a nice, different look. And I think it gives opposing offenses something else to prepare for. Yeah,
right. Didn't have DJ Dale, didn't have Jaheim Otis. Somebody else was missing too. On that
yeah. And then Aboigbe has also been out as well.
Yeah. So what do you think moving forward for this LSU game? Are these guys going to be back?
I think Nick Saban said that they're trying to get at least one of them back and maybe both of them. It's still early. You still got a couple of weeks, so I don't really know. I've heard that Justin Aboigbe posted some kind of cryptic message. I don't know if it was on Instagram or Twitter, but kind of alluding to maybe him being back. I don't know if that's the case. He's got the neck injury, and we haven't gotten any sort of update from Nick Saban. But if they were able to get him back, that would be huge because I think he was playing – if he was not Alabama's best defensive lineman, he was one of them. And just his ability to play inside and out, depending on the package and situation, I thought was extremely valuable. Byron Young provides a lot of that as well. But having him and Aboigbe and having two guys that have that versatility, I thought that was pretty big for their defense. So if they can get him back in the near future, that'd be great. At the same time, if they just get, Jaheim Otis, DJ Dell, really the defensive line's kind of depleted right now. So I was impressed with the guys who were asked to step up. I thought Damon Payne played pretty well. Jamarian Latham was asked to play a much bigger snap share. I thought Jamil Burrows played extremely well. So the guys who were asked to step up did their part. But I also think when you've got back-to-back road games against two top 20 teams, you need to be, as close to full health as possible.
Yeah, no doubt. And two really, really important games as far as Alabama's chances of getting to play Peanuts Tennessee team again and maybe getting to Atlanta to do it or in the college football playoff. But you got to win all these games to get there now that the team has lost. And that makes the next two games really important, although the Crimson Tide are off this weekend. We got to see Tyler Harrell finally. He got into the game late. He caught a pass in the contest. Nick Saban talked about him, kind of said that he's had some health issues. What did you think? And are we going to see more of him and the speedster that transferred from Louisville?
Yeah, it's difficult to know or really evaluate how he performed because it was in mop-up duty. It was very limited. He did catch that pass. That's great. But it wasn't, anything special. It wasn't him being sent vertically or anything like that. So I think from, that perspective, we're still kind of limited on seeing him in an Alabama uniform. But it was great to see him out there. That's a step in the right direction. And now it's just wondering, hey, can he build off that? I think a lot of people, myself included, I had, continued to reiterate all throughout, the first month of the season, hey, Eli Ricks isn't out there, but I still believe that it's going to click for him. He's going to get his opportunity and he's going to get, and once he actually becomes the starter, I think he's got a chance to become Alabama's best starter. And then it just, continued on. You reached week 7 against Tennessee. There hadn't really been any changes. You start to, even a guy like me, I started to give up a little bit. Maybe it's not going to be his time this year. And then next thing you know, he's a starter and he performs extremely well. So, I think the same thing can happen with Harrell to a certain degree, but I also think he's got to start making some moves. And I think the bye week gives him an opportunity, a couple of weeks to see where he can fit into the pecking order. But at the same time, there's a lot of mouths to feed at wide receiver. Nobody's really standing out too much above the rest.
Right.
But there's just so many of them. And I think that's kind of at a certain point, do you really want Bryce Young having to try to develop chemistry with 7 or 8 different guys at a time? Or would you rather kind of narrow it down a little bit, get a solid 5 or 6 and give all those guys the reps and allow them to continue to develop and build that chemistry? I think that would be more beneficial, but they've just got so many guys and it's kind of hard for any of these players to be standing out above the rest. I will be curious to see how the wide receiver group, plays out over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, same here. I think it's well said. How are you going to get chemistry with 11 guys, right? But no one's really emerged as the go-to guy yet. So we'll see. There's definitely room for a guy that could come out there and make some big-time plays.
Yeah, I definitely think that, I think Brooks here recently, he started off, I think he only had 3 or 4 catches over the first, 3 weeks or 3 games. That only went for like 62 yards. It wasn't a whole lot. And then really since then, he didn't have a catch against Arkansas, but in the other 4 games that Alabama's played, he's put up, 17 catches for over 350 yards and 4 touchdowns. So he's really come on strong, especially in the last couple of weeks. I think he's got a combined 16 targets in the last 2 weeks, and that, leads Alabama. So I think if anybody is emerging as that, mainstay in the wide receiver room, it would be Ja'Cory Brooks first and foremost, and then you kind of have to take it from there. But I do think that there are a lot of guys who are capable. Kobe Prentice went from being a guy who was really relied on against Tennessee to, not getting hardly any action against, Mississippi State this past Saturday. And then you've got other guys who really weren't relied on in previous games who stepped up. So, I do think that JoJo Earle's role continues to grow. Mm-hmm. He got 5 targets in this game. He hadn't had more than 1 in any one game, since returning against Arkansas. That was great to see. He had the touchdown catch. So I think he'll continue to get more and more involved. But like I said, there's a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah, and this is kind of sticking on wide receivers before I ask you the last question. Jermaine Burton didn't look like I didn't think he was going to play. I just put it like that. You had all the controversy with what happened as he was walking off the field. He did play. Nick Saban was asked about that. So 2 questions. First off, were you surprised by that? And then are you surprised that he hasn't produced more? He's like a 2-catch game guy. He's had some drops this year. He's not open a lot. Transferring from Georgia, we kind of expected him to be, and maybe we were spoiled like a Jamison Williams type. He's just kind of another version to me of Slade Bolden. It's just not as good.
That's an interesting comparison because, a lot of people thought, myself included, that he could maybe fill that John Mechie role in Alabama's offense. And he, not John Mechie, but Slade Bolden, as far as usage is concerned. It is unfortunate to see, how he's had such a limited impact because it's not like it's been a lack of snaps or opportunities. You look at that Mississippi State game on Saturday, and I will give, State credit. They are very good in the secondary. They're very opportunistic in the secondary. And so to some degree, it was not shocking, but I really thought that Alabama's receivers struggled to get separation downfield. And I think that, you see Bryce having, I mean, there were times where the offensive line 100% did its part, and Bryce Young had all day, and Bryce did his part. He extended things even more, and you still had guys that were, struggling to get open. And granted, at the same time, there were some explosive plays that were made off of that to Ja'Cory Brooks and JoJo Earl. But you just don't, a lot of their success has been through broken plays or extending by Bryce Young, because guys aren't getting open on their initial routes. And I think that's a big problem. And that includes Jermaine Burton. I think Jermaine Burton probably might be the main one that's had that problem. He's got to be able to get it together. I wasn't surprised by the fact that he played, simply because, the way that Nick Saban answered questions when he was asked about it this week, he never gave any indication that it was going to be a suspension. And
Great
so
point.
I kind of, I kind of expected it. A lot of people didn't, and they were pretty upset about it. But I mean, I'm not going to comment whether he should or shouldn't have. I just know that, based off of the way he was talking, I wasn't shocked by it.
Yeah, me too. I feel the same way. And I feel like, you know what? I don't have all the information. The video that I saw is really hard to even tell what's going on. And, and I'm going to trust Nick Saban's judgment on that. I mean, he's been spot on really with the way that he deals with his team day in and day out. And he's the best in the business at it. All right, last question before we get on and talk to Joseph about Alabama recruiting. What should we be looking for Alabama to improve during the bye week? I know wide receiver, one of those areas getting open. We just kind of touched on that. What else?
Yeah, the wide receiver is the big one. You got to figure out your rotation. You got to figure out a pecking order. You got to kind of go with it. I feel like there's too much fluctuation, and it's making things difficult, on a week-to-week basis. Now, granted, that's just me. I think you got a lot of, potential there, but, we'll have to wait and see how that ends up playing out. I think the offensive line's pretty important to, really start to figure out. It's not a matter of, I think they got their guys in place. Maybe determining who's actually going to be your starter, Seth McLaughlin or Darian Dalcourt, when both are healthy, because Dalcourt was back out there as the starter, but there's, that McLaughlin did leave early, the Tennessee game early the week before, so it could have been injury related. Who's the starter when everybody's fully healthy and everybody can go? I think that Alabama this past week, a lot of their, gap blocking schemes kind of went, that really declined. And I think their run game suffered as a result of that. They did a lot more zone blocking than gap. I would like to see them get back to doing more gap blocking. But, I think that the offensive line, certainly one of them. Defensively, I really think things are coming together. I don't think it's anything necessarily that you do on that side of the football. It's just, maybe Pete Golding getting more creative, continuing to get more creative in how he uses his personnel, but the talent's certainly there. And I think they're heading in the right direction, despite the fact that it was a very ugly performance against Tennessee. Maybe you start going ahead and planning for an Ole Miss Tennessee style of offense, and how you're going to combat some of that stuff. But I think, outside of that would probably be about it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, look, another super chat. And I said last question, you don't really have to get too long-winded with this, because I know you're way past your time here. But I'm having a good time hanging out with you, first thing. And secondly, I want to know, just like Will wants to know. He's hitting us with $5 more. Our tab just continues to grow here, Clint, which is a good sign for both of us, because we both like to drink like a fish. But no, I'm just kidding. Maybe I'm talking about myself. But look, seriously, I'm just kidding on that. But seriously, who has, in your opinion, been the best true freshman, this season?
I think that you've seen a lot of guys at various points. Early on, it felt like it was Kobe Prentice. Then it kind of, I think Isaiah Bond certainly been moving in the right direction. I think, Amari Nablack, he only played one snap on Saturday against Mississippi State, which was kind of a regression compared to what we had seen in recent weeks from him. Still think that at some point he's going to start getting more and more involved in the offense, and you'll actually start seeing him get targets. But I think Jaheim Otis has been the mainstay. He missed the Mississippi State week, but he's been a fantastic addition to the defensive line, and I only think that he's going to continue to get better, even though he's lost a lot of weight and done a very good job of getting in better shape. Could still use, continuing to move in the right direction on that front. And as he does that, I think he's going to become even more of a force. So it would definitely be Jaheim Otis.
Awesome, man. Great hanging out, Clint. Thank you so much, brother.
Absolutely. Good talking to you, Mick.
You too. All right, Clint Lamb, and you guys can follow Clint Lamb. You can hang out with him. You can ask him questions on the message board on BamaInsider.com, and you can subscribe right now. You get a membership. $10 gets you an entire year. You're going to want that. That comes with recruiting. That comes with the message board. And that comes with all the team coverage as well. Maybe you just want to try it out, $1 for 4 months. You better get on it soon because it's getting bigger and better. And you are not going to want to miss out on everything that we got going on here. Bama on 3, BamaInsider.com. And I promise you, this thing is just getting started. It's going to be amazing. All right, talking about amazing, our recruiting coverage is the best in the business. This guy here, Joseph Hastings, is out and about constantly burning up the interstates and the highways to find the latest on all of our big-time recruits that are coming to Alabama. What's up, Joseph? How you been?
Mick, I'm doing pretty good. Just battling a little bit of a cold here. Just trying to get over that. I think it's that Atlanta cold there. I don't know if anyone was in there in that area during the week last week, but it got hit with a pretty bad cold front, and I was up there for all of it, during my trip. But now I'm feeling all good. How about yourself, man?
Yeah, look, feeling great, man. Honestly, like I maybe I'm just locked in here in the home studio, just kind of staying away from everything like that, and hopefully, fingers crossed that I don't catch any of that anytime soon. But it's definitely going around. So get better soon, get to feeling better soon. But you're playing hurt right now, and everyone on the site appreciates that. Give him a thumbs up, guys, if you appreciate someone that's doing their job when they're not feeling their best, because we certainly appreciate it. Roll Tide to all you guys as you hang out. Give us a thumbs up, hit the bell, subscribe if you're not already here. We're closing in on 80,000 subscribers. And I got to tell you, man, it's been incredible watching this site grow. When I arrived, it was at 31,000. It was already on the grow, and we just continue to go and go. And it's because of you guys. You're the best in the business. So subscribe as you hang out. All right, Joseph, let's talk recruiting. We'll swing back and get into the team coverage, talk more about Alabama with Jimmy Stein coming up. But how did the weekend go for Alabama visitors?
Yeah, so the weekend went pretty good, and it's not too surprising. I don't think I've ever covered a program in which a recruiting weekend, especially a big one, didn't go well. It's just kind of hard to mess up with that, especially with a Power 5 program. And you have all those resources available to you. You're going to put on a good show. You're going to roll out the red carpet. You're going to do what you need to do. But Alabama brought in multiple five-star prospects, and James Smith and Quay Rousseau. They were on unofficial visits, and then they brought in David Hobbs, a 5-star defensive lineman, for an official visit. So David and I got to speak as he was on his way to Birmingham to fly out to North Carolina on Sunday, and he pretty much told me that he loved his time there. He and his family enjoyed it. The highlight of his trip was eating breakfast at Nick Saban's house, eating some pancakes, riding around in the golf cart. He really enjoyed himself there, and got to see Alabama's defensive line, what they were able to do, even though they were down multiple players on Saturday. He liked what the Crimson Tide did in terms of getting after the quarterback, had 4 sacks and 7 quarterback hurries, and he's being recruited as a defensive end, but has clips there at tight end too on his profile. So he's a very versatile prospect, and Alabama would love to have him in the fold, and it seems like they did what they needed to do this weekend. And then they also brought in Jordan Hall, who's kind of a late addition to the official visitors list. I got to catch up with him on Saturday, not this past Saturday, the Saturday before, and he told me that he had scheduled an official to Alabama for the following weekend. I was a little bit taken aback by it because there were other defensive linemen higher on Alabama's big board, but he told me that the Crimson Tide had been coming after him over the past few weeks. He told On3 director of recruiting Chad Simmons that this was one of his best visits that he's taken. Georgia has seemingly had the lead here for a few weeks, but it looks like the Crimson Tide were able to make up some significant ground here. And it kind of remains to be seen where he's going to go in terms of his recruitment, but he'll be unveiling a top 5 soon. I expect Alabama to make the cut, and he's probably going to take this all the way down until the finish line. So I expect the Crimson Tide to be players here. It's going to be tough to catch up to Georgia, but Alabama didn't do anything wrong on this visit. And, we'd also talked to some unofficial visitors. There are some big-time 2024 prospects in attendance for this game. Julian Stein, in particular, out of Carlsbad, California. He's one of Alabama's top 2024 targets at the position. He liked what he saw. He was in town for the whole weekend, actually. His parents came down on Sunday. He got to see the game on Saturday. Obviously took notice of what Bryce Young did. Clint talked about how he was able to extend the plays and what he did in that respect, and Stein highlighted that as well. So, can Alabama land another 6-foot-ish, quarterback, elite quarterback out of California? We'll see if they can do that. But, seems like they definitely helped themselves out a little bit. And, there's plenty of other visit recaps and content on BamaInsider.com. So be sure to check that out.
Awesome. Well, closing in on signing day. So, it's interesting to see kind of how all of these battles are going. And, and Alabama's not giving up on some of these guys, although they're committed to other schools. Nick Saban's been a master over the years at figuring out a way to flip some guys that you wouldn't really think. I mean, the signing day surprises a lot of times are Alabama getting guys that you wouldn't think that they're going to get. All right. So as I say that, recruiting thoughts with the bye week ahead. So we don't have a game now for all these guys to come to town and talk to Nick Saban and be around the program.
Yeah, so the big thing that we're really waiting on is Keon Keeley. Is he going to announce a commitment date soon? Is he going to get closer to that decision day? Or is he going to opt to take more visits? He has 2 official visits that he can take. Florida is a school that could potentially receive one. Maybe he decides to take one elsewhere. So what's going to happen in his recruitment? I'm very interested in paying attention to that. James Smith and Quay Rousseau, what additional visits are they going to take? Are they going to be in attendance for the Georgia-Tennessee game? Will they indeed make it to Alabama once again for the Iron Bowl? When exactly is that official visit to Alabama going to be? I'm kind of interested in hearing what their schedule is. And then Arian Carter, linebacker who's committed to Memphis right now. He's a name that's really popped up on the radar of a lot of big-time programs over the past few weeks. Alabama is leading on the On3 recruiting prediction machine in terms of, the opportunity to flip him. They're the school that is the favorite in that respect, I believe. And so the Crimson Tide got him on campus for the Texas A&M game, expected to receive an official visit from him. So he's one that we'll be paying attention to. You talked about flipping prospects. He's a name that completely came out of nowhere, previously a running back prospect, and is now, serious linebacker target for the Crimson Tide. Sontarian Perkins is another one. I love following this recruitment. It's gone pretty much everywhere, every single direction that you can think of. Thought he was going to flip to Alabama in July. He ended up visiting, he didn't do that, but he ended up visiting Bama for the Texas A&M game. Said he would return for the Mississippi State game, but didn't, and instead visited LSU this past weekend. So his recruitment is just kind of going all over the place. And it's one that's kind of keeping us on our heels. Those are just some of the main recruiting thoughts that I have. Obviously it's all on the defensive side of the ball. There are offensive targets for Alabama. Jaron Hamilton, the wide receiver out of Gainesville, who should be committing in the next few weeks. I would expect that probably to be maybe around the date of his official to Alabama for the Iron Bowl. And then also Lawson Lucky. I got to speak with him. He's a tight end committed to Georgia, UGA legacy. I'm going to be posting a story on him on Tuesday. But I'm really, looking forward to showing you guys what we got to talk about in that conversation, because the Crimson Tide are not out of that one. He hasn't ruled out taking another visit to the school. And it would be interesting to see if Alabama is able to add a second tight end to this class. So, yeah, I've got a lot of recruiting thoughts. And who knows, maybe there's another defensive back offered, with Cormani McClain trending to Florida and, not being certain about where Desmond Ricks is going to go. Tyler Scott said Tennessee's his leader. So cornerback recruiting is a little bit interesting. But, yeah, there's a lot going on with recruiting, even though Alabama has 23 commits right now.
Hanging out with Joseph Hastings, and you guys can hang out with Joseph and Andrew Bone, and you can do that a lot. It's really easy. All you got to do is join BamaInsider.com. Their recruiting thoughts, their nuggets, all the latest information is constantly posted there. And for you to become a member right now is the time to do it. Now that we're part of On3, $1 for 4 months if you just want to kind of try it out. And if hey, look, I really care about this stuff. I want to know what's going on. I want to be in the know, as they say. I want to do the message boards. I want to be part of the community. $10 for an entire year. It's a great deal, and you'll really enjoy it. So, take my word for it. And I know some of you guys have. And as I was on campus on Saturday, talked to a couple of you guys that watch the shows and that you're members of other message boards. And I said, hey, man, you're missing out because we have a great group and we have a good time here and it's just going to get better. So I'm like, look, take advantage of this because I promise you're going to like it a lot more than you think. And you're going to get, I don't know, the scoop, man. This guy's everywhere, including Atlanta. You talked about Atlanta. You were in Atlanta because you got sick there, but not before you were out there actually pounding the pavement. How did the trip go recruiting prospects wise? And then who did you get to check out?
Yeah, so it was a pretty busy week for me there, even though it was only 3 days where I was out there on the road seeing prospects. But I got to see Caden Cooper, Alabama's top remaining 2023 target. I posted a story from my interview with him on BamaInsider, and it seems like the Crimson Tide are in a really good position there. And Nate Oates and his staff, man, they're doing an excellent job on the basketball front, on the recruiting front, I should say. And they've assembled a really good class so far, and Cooper appears to be, heading in that direction. I have Alabama coming out on top at this time. And then I also got to talk with football prospects, obviously. Caleb Downs, Joseph Hastings, Alabama's two prized targets that they ended up committing to Alabama back in July. Downs is the top-ranked safety in the nation. Haynes is a Georgia legacy. Both chose Alabama over Georgia and Ohio State and remained locked in with their pledges, recruiting multiple five-star prospects to the Crimson Tide, and enjoyed speaking with both of them too. They're really good kids and have their head on their shoulders. And then I also got to, as I mentioned before, Lawson Lucky, the tight end committed to Georgia. He didn't rule out another visit to Alabama. Said that he has a good relationship with tight ends coach Joe Cox. So, he's one that I think my level of confidence with Alabama flipping him would probably be a 3, but he's one to pay attention to, especially since Georgia has 2 tight ends in this class, himself included, and a recruiting 5-star tight end, Deuce Robinson. So he's one to pay attention to. And then I also got to see Tyler Scott, recent cornerback offer for Alabama. I unfortunately didn't get to speak with him. It was kind of a interesting situation there because, Pebblebrook's game against Campbell ended with a fight. So all the players rushed off the field. I didn't get to talk with Scott after. Yeah,
you were there for that, huh?
It was one of the wildest things I've ever seen. I did see a few years ago a player quit halfway through the game. So I'm going to give the edge to that one for the wildest things I've ever seen from a high school game. But this probably took the cake here. But, I'm hoping to talk with him soon, see if he's going to be taking an official visit to Alabama. Has one set up to Auburn this upcoming weekend. So, and also on Wednesday, I got to speak with Parkview's Mike Matthews, top 10 overall prospect in the 2024 class. Big time recruit on the offense and defensive side of the football. So yeah, jam-packed. I'm still rolling out content from that week. I'm going to be rolling that out on Tuesday and Wednesday. So be sure to stay tuned to that.
Love hanging out with all you guys, including in the comments section, Jarvis and John and David and all you guys throwing questions up there, kind of going back and forth. That's what it's all about. We're having a good time on a Monday night. We do this every Monday night. Our show is presented by Westgate Luxury Condominiums. And if you're in Tuscaloosa, you're going that way, maybe you're looking for some property to buy, you want to invest, westgateal.com, or you're just coming to town. Basketball season's coming, football season. Maybe you just come to check it out. You're going to want to try Westgate because it's just amazing. Alice Maxwell and all those guys over there got you set up. If you need a tour, you want to check it out. Or maybe you just want to, rent a condo for the week or the weekend or something. You can do that as well. So find out more information at westgateal.com. All right, before we bring on Jimmy Stein, let's kind of wrap things up talking about Desmond Ricks. He is now reclassified to the 2023 class. What is that? How do you do that? And what does that mean for Alabama?
Yeah, we had a couple questions about that. It's kind of not something you really see too much. Quinn Ewers actually did that. He went to the 2021 cycle, I believe, from the 2022 class when he signed with Ohio State. It's not necessarily rare. I think you're going to see a lot. It happen a lot more going forward just because of the presence of NIL wanting to capitalize on that, on your name, image, and likeness. But yeah, so he went from the 2024 class to the 2023 class. And it's interesting from multiple angles. One of those being the rankings perspective. Before, he was the number 2 overall recruit in the 2024 class and the top ranked cornerback. Now he's the number 23 overall and number 2 cornerback. So it's kind of interesting to see how that happens. He is 18 years old though, so he's kind of at the age as some of these other 2023 prospects are, but I found that to be interesting. And Alabama, LSU, as the on-3 recruiting prediction machine reflects, those are the top 2 schools right now, followed by Florida and Miami. Those are the other 2 programs vying for his services. I expect Alabama to receive an official visit for the Iron Bowl, though it could be in December or possibly even in January. He's going to be taking his recruitment out all the way until February, Mick, and it's going to be. I'm really paying close attention to this one, just because Alabama may potentially lose out on Cormani McClain this week. It looks like that's going to happen, and then Desmond Ricks pops up out of nowhere and reclassifies to the 2023 class, kind of salvages it a little bit if Alabama is able to land them, and if Cormani McClain commits to Florida and Alabama is able to flip him in December and add Desmond Ricks to the fold, that means Alabama would have the top 3 cornerbacks in the 2023 class, and it would have 2 of the top 3 or 4 safeties. It would arguably, in my opinion, on paper, be the greatest defensive backs class ever.
Wow.
But yeah, so Ricks is reclassified. Alabama's in a good spot here. I'd probably side with LSU right now a little bit more than Alabama, but it's 1A and 1B, and it's going to come down to the official visits, in my opinion.
Awesome. Well, great stuff, Joseph. It's an off week for Alabama, but I got a feeling it's not an off week for Joseph Hastings. What do you got coming up this weekend?
Actually, no, it is an off week for me. I looked at the schedule and I was like, let's have some fun here. So I'm going out to Las Vegas, going to hang out with my brother and my cousin, and enjoy a few days off there. So
right, what do you do out in Vegas? You throw a little money down on the games? I mean, you hit the craps, you table player. What do you do?
I'm going to plead the fifth on this one and say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But I'm just kidding. We're gonna have a good time.
It's a great answer. Honestly, it's a great answer. That's good enough for me. I mean,
it's going to be a good time out there. I'm excited. First time going out there with my cousin, and it's going to be nice. So yeah, I am taking a week off from traveling, but I'll be back and traveling a little bit more after that.
Well, how many days are you going to be out there?
I think 3 or 4 days.
Okay, 4 is too many. 2 days out there, come home on the 3rd.
I had the option
just a little FYI, from a vet.
Yes, I had the option for 4, but said 3. I got a little taste of it back in August. I went for 1 day. I was like, I can't do more than 3 days here. So we lined it up for 3. I think that's all I can handle too.
Yeah, well, have a great time out there, man. Love Vegas, and appreciate all the help. And we'll get together next Monday.
Yes, looking forward to it, Mick. Thank you.
All right, Joseph, thank you so much. Hey, guys, before we bring Jimmy Stein on, let me tell you this. We appreciate you being here. We love you guys, and you've made this site what it is. Please like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up as you hang out with us for Monday Night Quarterback. We've been doing this, I guess, 3 years for me anyway. I don't even know how long it was going before me, but Monday night's been so much fun because I know we're going to get together. We're going to talk about Alabama. We're going to get into the game, and the message board cranking up over here. Love the comments, and talk about recruiting as well. Everything that you guys love, we're trying to do it. So make sure you guys like and subscribe, hit the thumbs up as we hang out here on a Monday night. And with that said, earlier today, got a chance to catch up with Jimmy Stein. He is on assignment tonight. He's a guest at a Talking Alabama football at the Quarterback Club. But we talked about the game, and I enjoyed the conversation. Always great to hang out with Jimmy Stein here on Monday Night Quarterback, brought to you by Westgate Luxury Condominiums. Jimmy, good to see you, and hanging out there in Daphne, Alabama, a little lower Alabama action. How you been?
Doing great. I'm going to really enjoy this bye week. That doesn't mean that it's a bye week for us at BamaInsider by any means, but changes up a little bit. We can sort of look back on the first 8 weeks and then look forward to the last 4 games. Just looking forward to a weekend where I don't have to stress through an Alabama game, frankly.
Yeah, really. And it's been really tough, and you kind of say that, and, to win all your games is tough to do, right? And the teams that do that normally have a lot of cakewalks and then a few close games. Alabama's found a way to win championships years like 92, where they have a lot of close games and then win at the end. This year's team lost to Tennessee, bounced back against Mississippi State. Your thoughts on what you saw Saturday?
It was a great performance by the defense, and I mean really good. Obviously, a shutout for 59 minutes and 59 seconds. You can't do much better than that. And really, my favorite play, Mick, of the whole game was actually the Mississippi State touchdown. I know that sounds crazy, but I thought it was a great sign of things to come when DeMarco Hellams was visibly, obviously, very upset with the young player Jacquez Robinson for not carrying out his assignment. He ran up inside. He's supposed to stay outside on that particular play. And Hellams was very upset about that play wasn't to the standard, right? I mean, it's 30-6. Why would anyone care? I think 99% of teams wouldn't care. 99% of coaches wouldn't care. Nick Saban cared. The defense cared. They didn't want to give up that score, particularly when it was a bad play on our part. And Hellams really got on to Robinson there. It sort of reminded me, Mick, of when A.J. McCarron and Barrett Jones sort of went at it in 2012, up by 4 touchdowns in the national championship game, when Ronnie Harrison and Reuben Foster got into it on the sidelines in 2016. And that was about not playing to the standard. The fact that this defense, that a leader on this defense, and Hellams is a leader on this defense, it showed that it was that important to him. I thought that was a great sign. I thought that really showed what Hellams brings to the table, why he's out there every week. He didn't have such a great game against Tennessee, was fantastic against Mississippi State. But I really like what I saw in that very last play. It showed that it is important to the defense to play to the standard on every snap, no matter what the score is. And I think this is something that Alabama can really build on defensively going forward. 2 really tough games on the road ahead, the rivalry game against Auburn at the end. But a lot to build on there from the defense Saturday night, holding Mississippi State to just 6 points. Mississippi State had scored over 40 against 2 SEC teams this season.
Yeah, look, and it was a good win for Alabama for a lot of reasons. First off, coming back from the game against Tennessee, you don't want to lose to Tennessee twice, right? You lost the game, you got to move on. They certainly did. The second thing is that, from what I understand, Bryce Young's still dealing with the AC issue in his shoulder, not throwing in practice, and then still, going out on game day and quarterbacking the team to a win. I didn't think he was his sharpest on Saturday, but I'll tell you what, the guy is an absolute competitor, and he got the job done.
He really did, and I think, where it showed itself to me, Mick, was, Alabama's got these designed pass plays where Bryce takes a snap, and then he's going to go through progressions and look at his primary receiver. And there was a lot of times Saturday, Bryce didn't like what he seen, pulled it down, held the ball longer, eventually made a play some of the time. And I think Bryce not practicing since the Arkansas game, that's a big deal, not practicing with the offense since the Arkansas game, that has to affect the timing with the receivers on those tight plays. And I think that's where it really showed itself. In the second half of this game, I couldn't help but think some of the play calls and some of what Alabama was doing, the idea behind it was, let's not get Bryce hit. Let's not get Bryce hurt. Let's not tax his arm. Let's just sort of get out of here with this lead. And I'm not saying Alabama spent 30 minutes killing the clock, but I think protecting Bryce was a big a part as protecting that big lead.
Yeah, I hope you're right, because I was critical of Nick Saban when Tua Tagovailoa was hurt, because I felt like they needed to do that in that game, all those years ago against Mississippi State, where, you're up 35-0 or whatever it was, and he gets hurt, and that kind of messed up that season. So if that's the strategy, I mean, you can't argue with that. Smart football.
Well, let's be completely honest. Alabama would like to win the SEC West. They would like to go to Atlanta and beat Georgia or beat Tennessee, whoever you see in Atlanta. They'd like to go to the playoff and win. Those things are probably not, to be honest, possible without Bryce Young at quarterback, a healthy Bryce Young. So it's not only keeping Bryce from being hurt, it's about keeping him healthy and upright. And and letting his shoulder heal. That's only going to happen with rest.
What do you think of the wide receivers that didn't have the drops for the first time this year in the game against Mississippi State?
Yeah, that was a good sign. No drops, no bad plays, but I'm not sure they did a great job of achieving separation in their routes. Obviously, Bryce had to pull it down. He didn't like what he saw, a lot. So I think they still need to work on presenting themselves as a target for Bryce, making it easier on him by getting open right off the line of scrimmage, making Bryce comfortable throwing the football to them. Also need to maybe block a little better on some of those short throws, the outside plays. They're going nowhere. We're not blocking it very well. Some of that's on the tight end. Some of it's on the receiver. So there's little things they can do to improve, but not dropping the ball is a good start. And I thought in particular, Ja'Cory Brooks played really well. I think by now it's 8 games in, Mick. I think if you go back game 1 through game 8, Ja'Cory's been Alabama's best receiver through 8 games.
Yeah, look, I agree with everything you said. Definitely. What about the offensive line? Do you think they're getting better? Do you like what you're seeing there? Where can they improve?
Well, I thought the pass protection overall was outstanding. State played a very funky kind of defense. I'm doing the rewatch thread on BamaInsider now, working on the first quarter today. And what you really saw from Mississippi State was they would show one look and then hop into another look. They showed a lot of pressure, then they would drop everyone, or it looked like they were going to drop everyone and then surprisingly bring guys at the last second. They spent a lot of time trying to confuse Bryce, not give Bryce the look at the snap that he thought he had pre-snap. And I think it was pretty effective in getting Bryce confused and unsure of things. And maybe that's why we saw him hold the ball maybe a little longer than he normally does. But the offensive line, I thought the pass protection was really, really good most of the game. Where it wasn't quite so good was in the run game. But again, give Mississippi State some level of credit there. They really kind of took Gibbs and the running back out of the game, kind of out of the game plan. So I credit State some there. The offensive line still needs to improve, particularly in the run game. But I did like some things. Tyler Booker continues to be super impressive. Hurt Alabama a little bit in the run game not to have their regular center, and Seth McLaughlin was hurt at the end of the Tennessee game. Darren Dalcourt played the entirety of the game at center. Dalcourt a better pass protector, I think, than a run blocker, whereas Seth is the better run blocker. I'm not saying that was the complete that completely solves the issue in terms of why Alabama had some issues in the run game, but it is a factor for sure.
Hanging with Jimmy Stein on the Monday Night Quarterback, part of the Bama Insider YouTube channel and part of BamaInsider.com. Don't forget, you can talk football with Jimmy anytime on the message board. You can do that with Clint Lamb. You can get all the recruiting nuggets from Andrew Bone and Joseph Hastings, who was on the show earlier. It's really easy to do. Swing over to BamaInsider.com. $1 gets you 4 months. Or take the deal I think you take. $10 for an entire year. You're going to get all the recruiting and everything else. But you can also hang out on the message board and and get into it. Jimmy, it's not just football that you guys discuss on there.
No, basketball starts just 2 weeks from today. I'm super excited. We're going to have great basketball coverage at Bama Insider. We won't have, some people might be a little disappointed, we won't have a full-time beat writer that covers all the games, but don't worry about that. We are going to have a ton of basketball discussion in the pregame about the opponent, during the game, and a game thread, post-game. I'm a big fan of Nate Oates and his program and the basketball team. I'm going to personally watch every game. If I can't watch it, I will listen to it. I'm that kind of fan. So if you want to discuss Alabama basketball, the Bama Insider message board is the best place to do that. Anywhere on the internet. We have lots of subscribers who are big basketball fans. We're also going to have some guests this season on the board that people will be impressed with, that are extremely knowledgeable about our basketball program. So I'm excited about that. That's just 2 weeks from today. They open up against Longwood.
Awesome. I can't wait to check it out. I saw Brian Pasek a couple of weeks ago, the color commentator for Alabama basketball, and he was fired up about Nate Oates, and he was excited about this year's team. And he gets you excited. He's like, hey, man, this is a legitimate program. And I believe him. I'm with you, man. I'm on the Nate Oates bandwagon big time. I think that he's the perfect guy for Alabama. All right, well, let me ask you this, Jimmy. Let me go back to another thread that you do. And last week we were talking about you rewatching the Tennessee game. I was very critical of the officiating. I also questioned their motives for some of the calls in the game and some calls that weren't made. I was uncomfortable with it. And, I wanted you to go back and tell me your thoughts after you watched it, make me feel better about what I saw or justify my feelings.
It's a little of all of it, I think. There were certainly some questionable calls in that game. And I think we saw – hey, this is just a theory on my end. We saw Bryce Young was hit. I think Mississippi State was called for 3 personal fouls.
The other side of it, right? Yeah, it was the other side of things.
I felt it was almost an overcorrection, frankly. Not all 3 calls. One of them I thought was very legitimate. The other one was just a terrible call. I mean, they never should have called that poor State kid for that penalty. I think Bryce would be the first to tell you that was ridiculous. And the other one was kind of borderline. But I kind of feel there was an overcorrection. This is a theory on my part. There's no way I have to know this. But I can't help but think, Mick, that Alabama's complaints to the SEC office might have resulted in a phone call from Greg Sankey to all of the crews, not the Autry crew that worked the Alabama-Tennessee game, but all of the crews urging them, look, we got to do a better job protecting quarterbacks. I mean, that the NFL is a huge point of emphasis, and it needs to be a point of emphasis for us because it's embarrassing when you have the most visible league in the country calling virtually, if you literally swipe at a quarterback in the NFL's 15-yard penalty right now, and we can't have our kids getting their heads knocked off with no call. So let's make it a point of emphasis. I don't think it was just in the Alabama game, Mick. I think all over the league, quarterbacks were really maybe overprotected this weekend, which isn't the right answer either. I mean, just call the game as it's meant to be called, as the current rule book says, and everybody will be fine. But I do think Alabama's complaints were heard because, the officials in the game against Mississippi State put Bryce in some bubble wrap. So, they're going to miss calls. That's going to continue to happen. The way I really look at it, I think I said this on the show last week, Mick, it sort of felt like in basketball, the hardest call to make in sports, I think, is block or charge, whether it's a block or a charge, and the officials got to make a snap judgment. That's the hardest call in sports. It felt like there were 10 block or charge decisions in the Alabama-Tennessee football game, and they went against Alabama all 10 times.
Yeah, that's how I felt.
It felt like, now, wait a minute. Are really all 10 Alabama's fault, whether they blocked or charged? That's kind of what it felt like to me. Like every single close call went against you. But I don't think it's a crooked thing so much as a bad calls, incompetence. But hey, Alabama's got wide receivers that drop balls and miss blocks. So
I hope you're right because I agree. But I just don't know the motivation behind it. And we probably, might never know. Or we might find out years from now. Who knows? But that what to me was one of the worst I've ever seen. And then this week, it was kind of like you said, that it felt like it went the other direction with the penalties. But you know what? They got to protect these players. And they're doing it in the NFL. And Bryce Young is going to be in the NFL really soon. He's going to be a great player in the NFL really soon. All right, well, let's kind of look ahead a little bit. And we look back. Let's look ahead a little bit. This LSU game's always big. It didn't seem like it was going to be a big game at the beginning of the season. Guess what, my friend? It's another huge Alabama-LSU game.
Really is. I mean, just look at the SEC West standings. LSU has 2 losses, but one of them's a non-conference loss. They have an East loss to the same team Alabama lost to. So whoever wins the Alabama-LSU game is big time in the driver's seat to win the West. So the West is on the line here. It's an improving LSU team. And I tell you what scares me a little bit, Mick, is Jaden Daniels, the LSU quarterback. I think he's improved all season, week to week. He gets better and better. I'm not saying he's Hendon Hooker. I think Hooker's a legitimate Heisman candidate and maybe even should be leading the Heisman race at this point. Jaden is not Hendon Hooker, but he has a very similar skill set. Alabama's probably going to have to employ a spy on Jaden Daniels for 60 minutes, just like they did with Hooker. It affects the coverages you can run. It's one less defender you can drop in coverage, or one less defender that you can just blitz the quarterback. And LSU's wide receiver core is pretty similar to Tennessee's in terms of how good they are and how deep they are. Those two things sort of scare me about this game. So some of the problems that Tennessee presented to Alabama are going to show up again against LSU. But LSU doesn't play as fast as Tennessee, so Alabama will be able to substitute in this game. They couldn't against Tennessee because of the tempo that they use. Also, LSU's offensive line, not quite as good as Tennessee's in my estimation. Maybe the Alabama pass rush will show up in Baton Rouge, and they'll really need to. This is a good LSU team, probably not a great one, but it's good. And, hey, a good SEC team on the road, you better play well or it might not end the way you like.
Yeah, right. And for Alabama, dealing with some injuries, up front. I mean, you're talking about some of the big pass rush guys and some of the defensive linemen out. Do you know that any of those guys will be back? I mean, do you have any updates on that?
I don't have anything specific, but I will say I'll be surprised if all of them aren't back. I think Otis has already tweeted that he would be back. I don't think the injuries to DJ Dale and Deontay Lawson are serious, so I think there's a good chance they'll be back. Alabama really needs Lawson against LSU because he's the ideal spy. You got to spy Jaden Daniels, or he could rush for 100 yards and control the game with his legs. So you've got to use a spy on him so you can contain him, sort of keep him in the pocket and minimize the effect of that he has with his legs on the game. And Lawson is Alabama could do that with Moody. They could do it with Henry. They could maybe even do it with a safety. None of that is ideal. The ideal guy to do it is Lawson. So it's going to be big if Alabama's able to get Deontay Lawson back before traveling to Baton Rouge.
Awesome stuff, Jimmy. Anything else you want to say before we wrap up a Monday Night Quarterback?
Yeah, just real excited about the things going on our message board. That's sort of my domain over there. Every week I'm doing a rewatch thread where I rewatch the game and comment possession by possession. This is what I saw. I really try to focus on personnel, who Alabama has in the game on 3rd and short. What kind of defensive look is Alabama giving Mississippi State when it's 3rd and 12? I comment on every possession throughout the whole game. Seems to be real popular with the subscribers. They request it every week, and just like a DJ, I do request. It's been requested, so I'm going to do it.
Awesome. Well, great hanging out with Jimmy Stein. Great hanging out with all you guys as well. Don't forget, you can get BamaInsider.com on 3. 1 year for $10 right now, or you can get 4 months for $1. Go find out for yourself. Hang out with Jimmy and Clint on the message board. You got Andrew Bone and Joseph Hastings keeping you up on recruiting, and there's a lot more to come. This is the new world order of team sites, and we are going to be by far the best when this thing's all said and done. Maybe we're there now, but it's only going to keep getting better. And remember me saying that. So check it out for yourself. You better get on now. For $10 a year, that's a great price because you're going to want to be there as this thing just keeps on getting better and better and better. Also, guys, thank you for hanging out with us on Monday Night Quarterback, presented by Westgate Luxury Condominiums. Next trip to Tuscaloosa. Check them out, westgateal.com. You can also rent a unit there. That's always a great way to kind of check out T-Town. You're right next to Bryant-Denny Stadium. You got the oversized balconies. You got the amazing parking, which is you go right under the building and you're right next to the football stadium. You have the amazing kitchens and the Skygate Club on the roof. That's where we do our post-game show. After every Alabama football game, we're up there as well. And they're also the official partner of Monday Night Quarterback, westgateal.com, near the Strip, near the Walk of Champions, near the football stadium, near campus. Thank you guys for being here on our show tonight. And for Chris Daughtry behind the scenes, Kyle Henderson, who's our guy that puts all this together, our captain, Jimmy and Clint and Joseph, I'm Mick Gillispie. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. We'll talk to you again next Monday night with Monday Night QB. Roll Tide.